This is Our Rough Draft, a podcast, real talk for real relationships.
Welcome to Our Rough Draft, where we share real stories from marriage, work, life, and the adventures along the way. We'll laugh, maybe get real, and hopefully help you spark some new conversations in your own life.
I'm Denise, the wild, emotional one who loves words and big ideas.
And I'm Tim. I'm the practical level one who fixes what she dreams of.
And this is Our Rough Draft, where we share the stories we're still living. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Our Rough Draft.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
Thank you. Welcome to the table.
Thanks.
A new space for us
Yes.
where you can just pull up a chair and have a conversation.
I
You
like
can
it.
invite others to pull up a chair and have a conversation.
That's true. I have multiple conversations.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So we took a little break, an unintended podcast break,
Yep.
but fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great fun.
Yeah, kids were all in town.
Yep.
And we got to hang out and just spend time, which was really great.
Yeah, it was fun to have them home. It was great to be a family of five again. It was easy to all be in the same space. So it was very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's set the scene for today. We were going to talk a little bit about belonging. I've been kind of on a journey with belonging, and it's come up a lot in conversations lately. And so we thought maybe we would have a conversation about that today.
Yeah.
And then for the second half of the season, can you believe we're already in the second half of season 2?
No,
I know, it's so fun.
that's wild.
I know. But to really give a little bit more structure to the podcast to make sure that we are coming back to what is that question that you can ask somebody that you're in a relationship with to be able to have a deeper conversation.
Yep.
And so I think where we're starting today is just maybe how would you define belonging, or how do you find belonging in our relationship would be kind of a cool place to start.
I think it's interesting because I always think about belonging as the thing that you describe. What do you love about work or home or friend groups or whatever it is? Well, I feel like I belong, but I think it's harder to define what that belonging means.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's a number of things. I think it's being seen and understood. I think it's a sense of security or safety, and not necessarily physical security and safety, but emotional security and safety.
Yeah. So you can show up vulnerable.
Yeah, you can show up vulnerable, authentic. And so I think about words like those help me define belonging. And I think belonging, I think that's core for me to the definition of belonging. It doesn't depend on what do you need at work to belong? Yeah. What do you need at home? What do you need in a friend group or community group or whatever? I think those things are pervasive throughout those different areas for me.
Yeah, because I think, yes. And it also ties really tightly for me to values and this idea that you don't have different values based on where you are.
Right.
Your values are core to who you are, not where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because I feel like that is part of the safety and security, that I'm safe to be myself in those values that I hold really near and dear.
Yeah. So for me, what comes up when you say that and what it makes me think about with belonging is this idea that I don't have to change who I am to be in a space.
Yeah.
Right? There's no code switching. There's no putting on airs. It's just I get to be me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I go to work dressed like this. It means that I still am the same person. My values that I have here get to be my values that I have at work.
Yeah.
Or wherever it is that I want to belong. Yeah. I also think about belonging with you, in the relationship, is all of those things you said, safety and security, but also this idea of mattering. And sometimes I think of mattering has to come before belonging, but I don't know if I'm there yet. But that I matter to the people in the space. So I don't feel like I can belong somewhere unless it comes back and I matter to them as well.
What does that look like, mattering, though? Because I think that's a really important thing. Because when you said that, I thought of valued. which is different than values.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's really, it can take on so many different meanings, but at work, like you're counted on to do your part. Like you're an essential piece to the puzzle. And so what you bring to the table matters. If you weren't here, who would do it? And I know there's a lot of talk in pop culture, like that whole idea of like, if you don't show up at work tomorrow, they're going to have somebody who fills your spot. Where you really matter is at home with your family and all that. True. And I want my work to matter. Like I want them to have to replace me if I'm not there. I think that that's essential for me. But I think mattering can also just be on like the personal side. Like maybe everybody's doing the same job and so the work will get done. But if your voice isn't in the room, we miss out on something. That's also mattering.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about belonging and values. And so have you thought any more about what your values are?
I have since
I think yesterday.
Last night.
I don't think it was yesterday.
The night before last when we were driving home, I think we were talking about it. So it hasn't been a lot of time to think about it. But I mean, we've all done those, you know, to your point. What are your top 5 values? Yeah. And I think mine revolve around something similar to you, which was service. I think, which has been, I think, a central theme in our family for a long time and intentionally so. And I think that it's being of service to others in ways that are meaningful to them. So it doesn't have to be service like my service in the military. It doesn't have to be, you know, something formal like that. But I think it's being of service and being helpful to people. That's, I think, huge for me. I value integrity. And I think that I do that because I tend to give trust when I feel like somebody has integrity. So for me, that looks like when I can believe that you are who you are, and when I can believe that, you know, you support me, you advocate for me, you know, I mean, whatever the situation I think requires in that relationship, then I feel like I can give trust. So for me, integrity, I think, is a big value. And I try to demonstrate that. I think when I'm not, you know, like you use the term, when you're living in the shadows, I think maybe I don't do it as often as I should, or in more overt ways. But I think those are 2 big ones for me.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. We've been having a lot of conversations about these words in my leadership classes. And I love when you use the word trust and integrity, because I think everybody has a different definition of those words. And if we don't talk about them, then we have the opportunity to miss each other. Because what I just heard you say about trust was somebody who shows up with integrity, meaning that they are not going to do you wrong, that are going to support you even when you're not in the room, are going to...
I think yes to those, but I also think, or yes, and if you're going to do me wrong, I at least know that you're going to do me wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that really is a key component of integrity for me, is being able to trust, again, that you are who you are. If you're an asshole, fine. Like, then, you know, fly that flag and I will consider that integrity. Like, you're not changing, you know, depending on who's around you and what situation you're in. I would rather that than everybody around you being quote unquote nice or fine or whatever the case is, but that not being true when they go behind closed doors, when they're not with you.
So integrity is almost like the opposite of performative.
To me.
Yeah, I like that. But I think it's important that you talk about these terms, right? Because you can say, I trust you, meaning that you'll come home on time. And that doesn't matter to me, right? Like what I trust is that, like, if somebody were to talk about me and I'm not there, that you are going to, like, consider me being in the room and talk to that person like I'm there. Right? Like, that matters to me more than you being 5 minutes late to something.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, like the knife is always sharp, the pillow is always soft, right? Like there's, you just, you know that, and they always are those things. And to me, that's the, like, I know what I'm getting into type of situation.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really cool. My values, which is why we keep talking about belonging, is because I said to you the other day, I think I've figured them out, right? Because I've had them over time.
Yeah.
I think they morph and change as your era in your life morphs and changes, and what's important to you and what you let go of and all of that, what you've learned to be even better at.
Yeah.
Bernie will talk about it as like your values are what you are willing to sacrifice for. And so when I said to you the other day that I think I figured them out, you were like, yeah, no, damn it. Like, but I thought I figured them out.
I don't know that it was, no, I think it was more subtle than that.
Yeah, because share them again. So what I got to was this place of contribute and care. And let me explain them. Maybe I can get there better today. But the idea of contributing is when I am doing something, when I'm working on something, I want it to matter to people. I want to contribute to the greater good, to the project, to dinner, right? Whatever it is, I want to contribute. The shadow side of that for me is when I feel like somebody doesn't value my contribution, I hustle for validation. I want people to validate that I'm contributing. When I'm contributing and it's working, I feel good about it. But when I feel that rub and it's not, like I then strive for that validation. And when I'm striving for validation, we are in red zone. Like that is not a good place for me to be operating from.
Why?
Because I will become a people pleaser and I will do anything to get the validation. It's gross. It's disgusting. Like I might even tell you I like you. No, I would never tell you I like that school down south.
You might even tell me that I'm funny.
You are funny. I hate to admit it, but that's one of the things that's changed over time. I will tell you that you're funny.
Not that I am funny. That's not changed over time. I've always been funny.
Okay. And then care. And the shadow side for that for me is when I throw up my hands. When I don't care anymore, like bad shit can happen.
Yeah. So as I recall the conversation, it wasn't about saying, no, those aren't your values. It was about, I think, digging deeper and exploring what those two words or concepts meant. Do you remember where we...
Yeah, because I think they're both in service of belonging. And so I think you're right. And I'm very fortunate that like all roads point to the same thing for me, right? Yeah. There's no internal conflict. Like I want to belong.
Yeah.
And I want other people to belong.
Yeah.
And the way that I get there is I contribute and I care to make those things happen. I don't necessarily agree with Brene that you have to have one or two. I think it can be bigger than that. But I think what the point is that if you get too many, you can't actualize them. And I think what I've been trying to do a better job of in the last few years is align my work, my job, my free time with my value of belonging. Places where I can contribute and it's accepted, places where I can care and it's appreciated, I show up better in those spaces. If I am put in a situation like work where I do something and nobody really cares about it, that's not going to be good for me or them.
It's not
a threat.
It's going to go poorly
real.
for them.
It's as simple as ASU men's basketball. I care so deeply about that sport, those athletes, and success of the program, and success not necessarily looking like all W's, but I would love wins. But like the success of the program, and I can contribute and help with that. When I see the players on campus, I can like make sure that they feel like they belong. When I buy my season tickets, I can contribute financially. But when I get nothing back, that is so easy to show that my contribution matters. It's an easy lift and they're not doing anything. Yep. And so I don't care anymore.
Well, we talked, I mean, not to get too far into ASU sports because we could go all day on that, but I think we talked about the difference between men's and women's basketball at ASU in this current era. You know, you have a new program being built essentially in both cases, men's and women's. I mean, the women's coach is a season in at this point. The men's coach just came, at the end of the last season. So two relatively new programs. And even as somebody who doesn't go to a lot of basketball games, I feel much more connected to the women's program because I see it reaching out. I see it trying to build community. I see it trying to do the right things for the athletes, for the university. I mean, everybody is invested in it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel the same connection to men's basketball.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to go so far as like engaging me.
Right.
I mean, I would love it if they engaged me, but they don't have to. They
Yeah,
just
not looking for a one-on-one. Yeah.
The fact that
Start
we are
there.
okay with a full roster overhaul, because you have, even in the age of NIL, not created a situation where anybody feels like they belong to the university.
Right.
And it isn't about being a part of men's basketball. It's a part of being a Sun Devil.
Right.
And we don't have that. And that is a simple example of where my value shows up. And when it isn't received, that I like build a wall and I shut it out.
Yeah. Which is what we're doing this year. Yeah. I think something that you were saying or something we were talking about just made me think of, this is random, but go with me here for a second. So 1 million years ago, I taught problem solving and like, how do you solve problems? And there's all these different methods. There's the fishbone method. There's the 5 whys. And I kind of hated all of them. And I kind of developed my own version of that. But it made me think of the 5 whys. And the reason I hated the 5 whys was you can keep asking why. So you can ask 5 whys. But what if at the end of the 5 whys, you're back at the beginning of your question? Like it can lead you in this circular kind of situation. And so what I thought was more effective was a way to kind of get you to a straight line or it doesn't have to be even a straight line, but it has to get you somewhere, some destination. And I think about that with the values conversation. Now I'm tying it back.
In case I wasn't following.
Right. Yeah,
we can talk about my ADHD in a minute.
Yeah. That's a whole separate episode. But it made me think like, our conversation where you started with this, these 2 words, and we talked over the course of that drive home, 20-minute, 30-minute drive, and ultimately kind of came to this other thing. And I think that's one of the challenges with people when they're trying to find their values. It's like, I can go here, but then I can circle over here, and then I can keep going around until I'm so confused. I have no idea which one is my actual value. And I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I think that you made the point of your values can change, based on phase of life, but I think they can also evolve as you learn and understand more. And I think you have helped me understand more about values. And I think the same can be said for other people. It might feel like contribution. But ultimately what it is, and ultimately what mattering is belonging. Like you can kind of get there, but it's an evolution of that thing. And you don't have to worry about, did I get it right the first time? I went through a program where we did that exercise of defining your values. And the person that facilitated the program essentially was telling people that they were wrong.
Yeah.
What's your value? My value is this. No, it isn't. Literally said those words. No, it's not. That. You're wrong. And forced us to keep exploring it. And I think what it does is it causes people to shut down. And not that every program is like that or every conversation around values is like that, but I think people can get kind of scared because it's very personal. It's very internal. It's very much, at the core of who they are. And it takes vulnerability to say, this is my value.
Yeah. I think about that in this place of corporate values and company values, educational higher ed values, like what's important to the institution or what's important to the team to move forward. Like, can our family have values that we live by? And I think, yes, I think you can have them. And I think they become operating principles that your rules and regulations and the way you do business ratchet into. And that makes sense. But when they become something that leave people out, or like what you were just saying, like, no, that's not your value because our company values are these. So your value has to align there. Stop it.
Yeah.
Because every individual has their life experience. And when you are creating a place where people might want to belong, like you have to be open to individual people showing up as themselves. And everybody has different values. And so it's odd to me that we talk about values for a corporation, because that feels like, let's talk about operating principles. I think we're convoluting what those are because people come by their values through trial and tribulation, through learning, through experiences, through being hurt. through working for assholes, through, sacrificing for their kids. And then they land where they land.
Yeah.
And I think service is a part of that, right? Like for our boys, like serving now, like at a time where the rest of the country doesn't feel like we're at war. What does that do to you? What does that impact you of your values? A company picks. A company doesn't actually learn. A company looks at data and decides. Like, it isn't actually human.
I think I agree with you. How do you feel about founder-led company versus a founder-inspired company? Because I think therein lies the challenge of a founder can almost put their personal values onto the company.
For sure.
I formed this company because I believe in community, I believe in X, Y, and Z, and therefore those are the company values.
Can you still say it?
No.
I can. Every item we will sell will give you complete satisfaction.
You may return it.
The guarantee. We will provide such excellent service, quality, and guarantee that we may be worthy of your high esteem.
Yeah.
Something in those words.
Yeah.
But that, right, Eddie Bauer was the founder, and that create and guarantee were essential to us working there. Same went for Disney. There was a certain way that we were to behave based on that founder's principles, but then they were actualized into the work.
Well, and yes, and the creed and guarantee in and of themselves were not values.
Right.
The creed and guarantee came from Eddie Bauer's personal values and his like you're saying, his personal experiences, his personal trials and tribulations, his lessons learned when he was working at that sporting goods store and saw the debacle with the return and like, no, that's never going to be,
Right.
So there's things there that created values in him that were important that he then translated into operationally, it looks like this. And then the company was guided by that. So I think that, not to pat you on the back, but that supports your point of why as a company would you spend so much time and energy establishing values? Why wouldn't you establish operational principles so that people can actually execute against those and still in keeping with the set of values?
Yeah. And being wide enough that I can show up with my values and you can show up with your values, and we can both work here.
We're still pulling for the same goal.
Successful, right? I think about that with ASU, with our charter. It's wide enough that we can all show up in it. And there's parts of it that matter to me more than the person who sits next to me at work.
Yep.
And that's okay, because when we all pull on those different parts, we achieve the whole thing.
Yeah.
But when you get to that place really narrow of our company values are only these two things, I think you can leave people out and it doesn't create a sense of belonging.
Well, and I think to bring it back to our relationship, our family, because that's really obviously what our podcast is about. It's not not about business. Well, yeah, some days. Sometimes we stray. I think that families are a good example of that, where initially you probably have more similarities in your values, right? Especially when you have young kids. So you and I can still demonstrate different values and hold different values to be true. But our relationship, I think, works because our values coexist. They don't conflict with each other.
And they're not the same.
So I think they're mutually supportive, and they by you demonstrating and living to your values, it makes me a better person because now I can see that, and I can maybe not necessarily take your values or incorporate your values into me, but I can see how they work with mine and how mine work with yours. I was getting at is I think, kids probably take a lot of their values early on from their parents, from the family. But then as they develop and grow and have those experiences, run into those roadblocks, whatever those things might be that help develop your values, they develop different values potentially than the rest of the family. But the family operates around certain principles. One of ours has always been, don't be a dick.
Right.
Like, it's really simple. And we had a conversation when the brothers were home, like, just be nice. That's a principle. That's a table stakes rule in our family or thing that we operate on. So even if your value is something different than the rest of the family, you're still operating by that principle, or we expect that you do. So it allows room for growth and individuality within your values, but it also then keeps you focused on those operating principles, just like a company would be if those things are established.
Yeah,
and
I think
values.
that piece, what you're just talking about, is where families go sideways sometimes, is kids, teenagers preteens even care more about their friends or care more about their sport or care more about their music, whatever it is, than they do about their siblings or about getting their chores done. And you can get into a values conversation about that. I raised you differently versus recognizing the time and space that they're in right then. Other things are more important to them and they get to be. And there's still rules and responsibilities at home. So yeah, I know you want to be with your friends. I know that you would rather be doing this other thing. And this is what's required here.
Yep.
So do these first.
Yep.
I just think it saves a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great point. And I think that's one that can easily get missed or it can be forgotten during stressful times because it's easy to come back with, I didn't raise you that way. I raised you differently. I raised you better. I raised you whatever. That's a common phrase as a parent. And I have said it.
Not that much.
Well, but I've said it. But the point is, like, I'm trying to bring the kids back to something.
Yeah.
You've forgotten or you've strayed away from this thing that we hold dear. And I think sometimes people consider those values, and maybe it's not values. It goes back to that point of it's just how we operate. You know, we raised you to say thank you. Like an operating principle is, again, be kind to people, and that includes X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when it comes to parenting, kids come back around. If it really matters, if it really is something that's important
and consistent,
and they care about each other and they care about you, they come back around to it.
Yeah.
So it might feel like for a number of years you're pushing on something, but then it comes back around and you don't have to push on it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's fun. And I think we saw that this trip with all of us being here together, and everybody's stressed right now. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot going on. And we were able
cortisol is high right now.
Yes. We were able to be together, have a great time, do silly things, do fun things, watch a lot of World Cup, but have really deep, caring conversations and be together. And it was good. I don't feel like I'm pushing on much right now.
Yeah, I think that...
I mean, maybe putting on shirts. There's a lot of not wearing shirts.
There seems to be a topless thing going on in our family. When
it's fucking hot, but...
It is. Agreed. Before we started this conversation, we were talking about that question that I think you posed the other day about, I can't remember it now, but it was essentially, as people change, can you still belong, or can you still belong to each other as people change? And I think that our stage of life right now, we've been able to see our kids evolve through different phases and stages, obviously. And sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking when you get back together. Like, is this going to work? And I was a little trepidatious about being a family of five again, because, your kids go off and they obviously have different lives now. They have lives outside of this house, outside of the five of us. And they have other people that are important to them in those lives. And that's a perfect and great thing, and as it should be.
Yep.
But it's still worth considering, what are we like as a family of five when we haven't been a family of five for years now?
Right. So
is it still the way that we remember? Do our principles as a family still guide the conversations? Do they still guide the interactions? Does all of this still work, essentially?
Yeah.
And I felt like it did. I mean, to your point, I think that, there's still... somebody's going to hit somebody else. Somebody's going to argue with somebody else. Like, that's just the nature of being a family. But I feel like it still is easy to get back to being five for whatever period of time, whether that's a couple of days, a week and a half, whatever it might be. And who knows, maybe if it was 2 weeks, that would be too long, because those people have to get back to their thing.
Right. They would miss that.
Yeah. This is great. However, I've got this other thing that I have to get back to, whether it's a job or relationship or whatever it might be. So.
Yeah. And I think there's a piece there that I really value. I think we have modeled over time how to come back together, whether it's after an argument, when somebody's done somebody wrong, when we haven't been together, about how to figure that out together.
How have we done that? Because I think you're right, but I think for the purposes of being helpful, how have we modeled that?
I think I push. That's a place where I do push of we aren't going to walk away and be mad. We're going to talk it through. We are going to speak kindly to each other when we are talking it through so that we can actually hear each other. We're going to ask questions. I don't know what else.
Well, I think going back to the principle of don't be a dick.
Right.
I mean, I think that, and that's not a really family rule. I keep going back to that one, but it's the easiest to remember and the most concise. But
and the one that said the most.
Right. Yeah. The one that comes out most frequently. But I think that, all joking aside, I think that we try and model that. When you get back together, you do need to be kind. You do. And it's not that you can't feel a way about somebody. I mean, we can talk about this at some point, but there was a big conversation this time around when we were 5, and there was a lot of things said, and there was a lot of big feelings in that.
Yeah.
But I think in that nobody, and I was impressed by all 3 of our kids. Like, I think they all 3 did an amazing job of having that conversation amongst themselves and still being kind to each other and not letting it turn into what it might have 5 or 10 years ago, where it would have been a lot of shouting, a lot of insults, a lot of, I'm done, I'm walking away. Yeah. So that evolution of the conversation amongst the 3 of them, I thought was the best part of the time being back together. So however we've modeled what you're talking about, you don't get to be mean. You can say hard truths.
Right.
But you don't get to be mean.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've modeled it because we're not always perfect. And so even when they were here, like I don't know, I was in the living room and you were in the kitchen and I said something and like all 3 of them were like, Mom, not necessary. And I was like, sorry, I was really screwing around.
Yeah.
But it wasn't kind. And they called me on it. And they were allowed to call me on it. Yeah. And same way that I'm allowed to call them on it, right? And so, I think the rules apply to all of us, not just them.
Oh, yeah.
And so 100%. I think that's been a way that we've modeled it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, if I can be vulnerable, that's a thing that I have, I think, not always done well, but I feel that I'm getting better at. I think that in the past, I think when you would call me out on things, I would have a hard time saying, yeah, you're right. Like, that was stupid. That was unkind. That was uncalled for. That was whatever, like
one-on-one or when they were an audience.
Either or. Either or. I mean, I think it's important when they're an audience because I think that it's important that they see that a relationship can exist where somebody says, that wasn't kind, that, whatever it is, that wasn't called for, that was stupid, that was, X, Y, Z. And for the other person to say, to take that half a second of self-reflection and be like, you're right. And that was dumb. Or, yeah, I screwed up there, or I did whatever. And man, that I just think about that leap and what it can do to a relationship, either amongst 2 people or amongst a family, when you can be that vulnerable to say, yeah, you're right, that wasn't kind. And I'm sorry for that. Not sure why I said that, but I apologize.
Yeah, because
and to do so unconditionally.
Right. Because nobody's going to get it right all the time.
Right. And the more you can do that, you set the stage for honesty and trust and vulnerability. Like, you set the stage for all of these great follow-on things by being able to establish that as a
which
principle.
Back to this idea of like, what are we really talking about? We started
where are we going with this?
What does it mean to belong, or how do you create belonging? And I think all of what we talked about is that you're constantly creating an environment where the people you love can feel like they belong. And that can't be set in stone because the humans in the equation are constantly changing too.
Right. Yeah.
And that was, right, like, to talk about it. So I don't want to leave it like, what happened? It's a mystery. I'm going to talk about it. Boys were playing a game. Mason did not like the way that he was being spoken to. It had been building up over a course of a couple days. And so he said something and was going to walk away. You're not being nice to me. I'm out of here. And I said, no, thank you. You may stay and we will have this conversation. And asked the brothers to stop what they were doing and to listen. And he was able to articulate what he needed, examples of what he wasn't getting, and ask for what he did want.
Yep.
And they were able to listen, consider it, share their sides too, which I think was really important. It wasn't a one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
And get to a place where they started that conversation.
Yeah.
It will continue.
Yep.
But they had the opportunity to see him as a 17-year-old.
Right.
And not to out Larry, who's 6 and following around the baseball field.
Yeah.
Like, they got to see him at 17 and be like, oh, we have to adjust.
Yeah.
It was cool.
It was so cool. And I think that there was a couple of times at the beginning of the conversation where you could see things going the old way.
Say more about that, because I feel like we've had more of these than not.
I totally agree.
Okay.
But I think there was just a spark of defensiveness in the beginning of that conversation. And there was a spark of like, I'm not listening to understand. I'm listening to defend myself because I feel attacked right now, or I feel targeted, or whatever the case may be. But that quickly went away.
Yeah.
And they both listened to him. And I think to your point, they were still able to explain their side. And I think that they were able to explain their side through some apologies.
Yeah.
I apologize because I know I've done that. And here's why. And I don't feel good about this, but I'm apologizing because of what I've done, or what I've, led you to believe, or whatever the case may be. So I think that was where the conversation was really productive, because it wasn't about being defensive. It was about listening to understand and hearing him, and hearing this, to your point, 17-year-old, not a 6-year-old, not a 5-year-old anymore, saying you're being mean, but a 17-year-old saying, this is what I need from you, and this is what I'm not getting back.
Yeah. And I think that there's a piece there of you can apologize and take ownership, and you can explain what's going on.
For sure.
Right. And I think that a lot of times people are discouraged from saying their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was just writing about this today. It's one of the chapters in my book.
Fantastic.
About just shutting down. And instead of being defensive and defending your point, of just being silent. Neither of those responses are helpful.
Right. Yeah. 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 I think silence is probably the most unhelpful, because I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know if you're hearing me or understanding me. I don't know if you're just trying to get out of this conversation. Whatever it is, I'm getting nothing from you. So
yeah. Good times.
Great times.
Creating belonging. It's for real.
It is.
So for you, for this week, for the listener, ask that question. Like, how has belonging changed in your family? What are you doing to make sure people still feel like they belong? How do you feel like you belong? Any of those, like, to get at that conversation, because we use it so often, but I don't know if people always agree on what it means.
I think it's also especially important within a family to have that conversation, because I think families assume everybody belongs here because we are a family.
Right.
And maybe not every family does that, but I think it's very easy to fall back on, we are biologically related, or we are legally related in some form or fashion, so therefore we're a family and everybody belongs. And when you believe that, I think you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're not creating belonging. You're not working to bring everybody into that family and create that sense of safety, security, whatever other values are important to them. You still need to work to create that space for them. So
yeah, I think just defining words as a team, as a family, as a group of humans is really important.
Yes.
Because we can miss each other so easily.
Yep.
I even think about with the boys being well-versed in other languages and the meanings of other words in other languages. It's so nuanced, and English can be such a broad brush sometimes.
Yep.
And to really get at, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Agreed.
Cool. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for hanging out yourself.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.